In August of 1815, 12 American sailors watched their ship break apart on the rocks off the coast of Africa. They made it to shore alive. For a moment, that probably felt like the end of the danger. It was only the beginning. What happened to those 12 men over the following 2 months is stranger and more revealing about human survival than almost anything you'll find in a modern account. And it starts with a detail most people miss entirely. The desert didn't just take their food and water, it took their identities too. The ship was the Commerce, out of Connecticut, under Captain James Riley. After the wreck, the crew didn't find rescue. They found Sahrawi nomads who captured them and sold them into slavery. What followed was an 800-mile forced march across the Sahara, one of the harshest environments on Earth, in the hands of captors who owed them nothing. Think about what actually keeps a body alive in a place like that. Not courage, not willpower alone, calories and water, full stop. And the Sahara offered almost none of either. The sailors survived on whatever their captors survived on. Dried locusts, snails picked off scrub brush, bone marrow cracked from animal remains. When there was no water, they drank camel urine, understanding correctly that dehydration would kill them faster than almost anything else the desert could throw at them. Some of the men lost more than half their body weight. Their skin blistered and cracked under a sun that could mummify a corpse within days. Here's the detail that should surprise you. The single biggest threat to their survival wasn't thirst or hunger or heat. It was each other. Historian Dean King, who spent years researching the sailors' first-hand accounts and retraced their route himself, found that starvation didn't just weaken these men physically. It reshaped how they treated one another. Trust, the kind that exists easily when everyone has enough, becomes almost impossible to sustain when nobody does. Small resentments over who got an extra scrap of food, who seemed to be struggling less, who might be hoarding water, could tip into real danger. Extreme scarcity doesn't just test the body, it puts enormous pressure on the exact same social bonds that, in ordinary life, feel unbreakable. And yet, they didn't fall apart completely. Captain Riley made a decision early on that, according to the survivors' own accounts, changed the entire trajectory of the group. Rather than presenting himself and his men as helpless, defeated captives, he began negotiating, constantly, relentlessly, framing himself to one particular trader, a merchant named Sidi Hamet, as someone whose freedom and whose men's freedom could be worth real money if delivered to European traders on the coast. It was a bet built on nothing but persistence and a read on human incentive. It worked. Hamet agreed to guide a portion of the crew toward the coastal town of Mogador in hopes of ransom, rather than simply working them to death in the desert interior. That single decision, made under conditions of near-total physical collapse, is the hinge the entire survival story turns on. Riley didn't outmuscle the desert. He outthought it, using one of the oldest human survival tools there is, finding a reason for someone else to want you alive. Eventually, most of the surviving sailors were ransomed and returned home, a fraction of the men they'd been when the Commerce went down. Here's the twist almost nobody expects. Riley wrote a memoir of the ordeal in 1817, and that book ended up in the hands of a poor farming family in Indiana years later. A young boy in that household read it obsessively. His name was Abraham Lincoln, and he later cited Riley's account, with its unflinching descriptions of slavery from the inside, as one of the formative texts that shaped his early understanding of human bondage, decades before he'd have any power to do anything about it. Which brings the story back to you in a strange way. You'll probably never face a desert crossing or captivity. But the core mechanism that saved those sailors, using intelligence and social leverage instead of raw strength to survive an unsurvivable situation, is still the exact tool your brain reaches for under pressure today. Negotiating a deadline, reading a room correctly, finding the one person who has a reason to help you. It's the same wiring, just aimed at smaller deserts. The sailors of the commerce didn't survive because the Sahara showed them mercy. It showed them none. They survived because, even stripped down to almost nothing, they never stopped looking for the one lever that might still be pulled.